Hello, everyone. Today, we're going to be starting part one of a small series through the book of Proverbs. And Proverbs was written by Solomon, the wisest man on earth before Christ, right? And he passed on through the Holy Spirit and the inspiration of the Holy Spirit lots of wisdom for us. And I just want to go through and just pull out some nuggets, not comprehensively, but just some ones that stand out, and see what kind of wisdom we can glean for ourselves and for our life as we live for the glory of God. The first part I want to pay attention to is Proverbs chapter 1, verse 5. Solomon is beginning the book of Proverbs, and he explains the purpose of these Proverbs. And one of the purposes is Proverbs 1:5. It says, "Let the wise hear and increase in learning, and the one who understands obtain guidance." And even there, even in the purpose and the description of the book of Proverbs, Solomon is already inserting wisdom right into there. Right? Because when we think of wisdom or someone that's wise, when we think of someone, I don't know about you, but for me, I always imagine somebody older or some monk, right? Some sitting up in the mountains in some monasteries, or someone that's very old and doesn't move around much, right? Some sage. And yet, the way, look at what Solomon says. He says, let the wise hear and increase in learning. So it's actually the wise person is the one that still is able to hear and increase in learning. The wise person is not the one that knows everything, but the one that is open to hearing and increasing in learning. And the one who understands, who has understanding, is someone who can obtain guidance. So can obtain something. So that means he doesn't yet have it, but he's open to obtaining it. So what we see is that wisdom is less about how much we know and more about how open we are to learning at this particular moment. Let me say that again. Wisdom is less about how much we know and more about how open we are to learning in this particular moment. This is exactly the same reason why Solomon, at the end of his life, as he writes Ecclesiastes, another book of wisdom, Ecclesiastes 4:13, he says, "Better was a poor and wise youth." Isn't that funny? We think wise and youth can't go together, right? You're wise when you're old. But no, he says, "Better was a poor and wise youth than an old and foolish king who no longer knew how to take advice." Friends, wisdom is more about us being open to hearing, to increasing in learning. It's more about being open to obtain guidance than having some sort of knowledge already. Wisdom is less about what we know and more about our openness to receive advice, to listen, to hear, to heed, to think. And that's why, again, Solomon says, "Better was a poor and wise youth than an old and foolish king who no longer knew how to take advice." Let us always be open to listening, to hearing, to taking advice, to considering, to obtaining guidance. And may the Lord bless us in our pursuit of wisdom.